what gets in our way is our confidence. Are we good enough to be on that sales call? Is our product good enough? How are we doing against the competition? Should I be pricing that high? Oh, there's all this. That's all mindset. I think sales is human, and I think everyone sells differently, and you got to tap into what makes you you and be authentic on those calls versus trying to act like someone else. I don't want someone trying to sell like me. You have to sell like you.
Welcome to Marketing by Design, where you and I learned from our favorite founders and marketers on how they built their success and told their stories by design. I am your host, Andy Milligan. Let's get started. What is happening, people? Welcome back to another powerful episode of Marketing by Design. Who you just heard was the one and only Brian Andreyko. Brian is a sales consultant for B2B startup founders. He's also the host of the Just Get Started podcast, which has had over 400 episodes and has featured many amazing guests like Jason Fried, Seth Godin, and most notably, me. Brian has become a fast friend of mine, and like I said, we've been on each other's podcasts. This episode is super interesting because it's from a couple months ago, and it's interesting to hear Brian's mindset and also kind of hear how he was coaching me a little bit on my own. Brian is my go-to for all things sales and motivation and putting myself over that hump and just digging a little bit more out of myself than I knew that I had. If you guys have heard any of my own content and my opinions on sales, sales is literally just making friends. It's showing up for other people and over-delivering in every sense of the word. Brian echoes a lot of those opinions and has more tactical insights to share as well. And speaking of tactical sales skills, Brian sends out a weekly newsletter every Sunday morning, teaching me and hundreds of other startup founders how to get better at sales for ourselves. I highly encourage you guys to check it out. So without further ado, we're going to jump straight into this episode. Before we do, I want to share with you guys a free resource that I built for you. It's the highest converting website's visual swipe file in Notion. Screenshots and descriptions of all of the highest converting website sections on the internet that we're referencing and using for our own clients to make their websites better. If you're starting a redesign or if you're looking for inspiration for your own website, this is a great place to start, and I invite you to take me up on this. That'll be in the first link below, as will the Sales Skills for Founders newsletter and all things Brian. This is entry 126 of Marketing by Design. Please welcome the one and only Brian Andreyko.
What you just shared, there's literally like the just get started philosophy. Like a lot of people think starting is the hard part. And I actually have changed my tune on this. I don't think starting is the hard part. I think it's overcoming the first couple obstacles that get in the way, those plateaus that we hit where we don't see the gains as much. I can use a gym analogy here, right? I go in, I'm excited. And then a month in, I'm like, I'm not losing as much weight as I thought I was, or, I'm not lifting as much weight or whatever the excuse is, or the complaint or argument. But the reality is it's not about that. It's about sticking with it and then pivoting from there. Like you might be running all day and you're like, I'm not really losing weight, but okay. Do you still want to work out? Do you still want to exercise? All right. Well, then maybe you don't run, right? Maybe go do go do like some boxing or go do CrossFit or, go swim. Like you don't have to do the same thing you're doing. But I think that's the mentality. It's like, I like to run. I'm going to run marathons. Why? Why not do a triathlon? Or like there's variables there.
And that's what I think the danger comes when we try and attach ourselves wholesale to an end outcome and only thinking that there's only one way to get there. Me and I talked about atomic habits last time we chatted, but James Clear has like the analogy of like, what would this look like if it were fun? And I've gotten into the mindset lately, unfortunately, where I've applied that to getting better at applying that to work, because a lot of people think that in order to accomplish kind of anything exceptional, it can't be fun. Like it has to be hard work, grind, and I'm sort of in the mindset of being able to work out like what that could look like existentially, and trying to apply that more than day to day as well. So
Yeah. I agree with
I
that.
don't think I'm the only one.
No, I think I think that's an exceptional way to look at it. And I think the way that we ought to look at it Because like you mentioned the burnout thing, like, I think burnout happens from going too many days in a row doing things we don't enjoy. It's the same
Mhm,
thing with the fitness thing, right? If you had to go to Orange Theory every day, you're like, "F this, like, I don't wanna I don't." But if you're like, "All right, I have to go here because I'm gonna go support my friend who goes here, and we're gonna go every couple
mhm,
weeks." All right, not bad because I get back to running or I get to, whatever it is the next day. Like, I but there is a point, like, this is where, like, there is a point where just doing something because or not doing something because it's not fun isn't the right answer either, because that comes down to
mhm,
the challenge, right? There's things you might do that you're challenging yourself where, this is not as fun for me grinding it out, but it's also pushing me to a new level. Like, I hate running. It's actually funny the amount of people that think I'm a good runner because I'm like, 6'3" and kinda lanky,
mhm,
but I hate
mhm,
running. But I've run a couple half marathons the last few years, and I've done some different running, or I have aspirations to do a marathon in the future. I don't like running. It's a grind for me. It's not fun. What's
mhm,
fun for me is the mindset to, like, overcome
mhm.
I don't like running and then run and then be able to accomplish something. So maybe there's some fun
Yeah,
in, what I'm getting at? Like, I
yeah.
think
I
that's
think
important.
once you can see yourself as the person that does hard things, it becomes a lot more fulfilling to put actions in place that actually realize that. Um, and I get the exact same thing too. Is like people being tall and long and lanky is almost a curse because people are like, "Oh, it must be easy for you. You know, you're just a natural gifted runner." I was like, I enjoy this probably a lot less than most people. Um, so that's why my BS radar always goes up every time I hear, "Oh, it must be easy." But Brian, I want to talk to you kind of about the biggest reason we got in touch was I was very much an admiration of your podcast. Um, and you see anyone like there's definitely levels to this stuff because there's people that have they're hobbyists. I call them sometimes. They get started. Which ironically, it's the method of your show, but they get started. They don't know whether or not it's for them. Maybe you start doing something for a few weeks, months, and years, but when you start crossing the hundreds of episodes threshold, that's when you really start to, and especially if people that have done it for a while as well, they know everything that goes into it. And I think it's super interesting too, because with podcasting, you have all these variables. You have the production time and a lot of these things that people don't know when they first start, which ends up being kind of why they fall off. But Brian, like I would love to just hear your mindset around your show, how you stayed consistent with something like that, and sort of talk about where the doors that's opened up for you in your own career.
Yeah.
Because I started with very loose motives. I just wanted to get better at talking, and I think you started for a reason that was also very internally motivated and trying to prove some things to yourself too. And
Mhm.
I want to hear that story.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so let me take the why behind it, and the reason it's called "Just Get Started" is because I didn't start, for several
Hmm.
years. I wanted to start in 2015 and actually went to a conference, actually a design conference, Major Level Creative. It's all for, like, sports designers and, creatives in that field. Phenomenal conference, still going on to this day. Shout out to, Chris David Garcia there for spearheading that. But anyway, so I met this guy, Adam Martin, in 2015, and he was a podcaster, Makers of Sport podcast. And I was like, dude, yeah, I've really thought about, I was just getting into listen to podcasts at that time. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh man, I really want to start one. And he's like, yeah, and he gave me some tips and stuff. And I said, great, I'm going to start one this year, man. I'll let you know when I start it. Well, a whole year goes by. I see him at the same conference in 2016.
Yeah.
I haven't started it. Same story again. Then another whole year goes by. So now we're in 2017. Now, you gotta imagine this is where I think it's important to have some of the context here. Like, we can either, "Oh, you just did this," and then boom. It's like, obviously, all this stuff happening in my life with job stuff and, I had my
Hmm.
son growing and, just life happens, right?
Yeah.
And it was also the battle each and every day with myself of like, "Dude, why are you not doing this? Like, what are you scared of?" And this, like, constant, kind of icky feeling inside of like, I'm not doing enough. and I'm kind of wasting time. So anyways, we get back 2017 to this conference. I see him again, and I said, and Chris is actually there with the conversation. I said, guys, hold me accountable. I'm starting the podcast this year. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, but you guys are both going to be guests. We're going to figure that out, kind of thing. Um, and then I came up one day. I can't remember the day. It was sometime later that summer. I was just like, God, you just get started.
Mhm.
And I was like, whoa, maybe this is the podcast. Maybe I will interview people that have gotten started. And maybe that'll be proof one, it's something for me to get started with, right?
Mhm.
Two, it's to share those stories and the journey of getting started, the early days, the days when like it's really struggled. Like we can see the people that were, I found Gary Vaynerchuk and I give him a lot of credit as a, virtual mentor, as I call those folks. And, like, oh, I could see him, the success he's had. But go talk about Gary when he's 13, selling his baseball cards or when he's working, for whatever, a couple dollars on the weekend in his dad's liquor store. Like all of those things, those are the getting started moments that really matter. And that's what makes Gary
Mhm.
who he is today is all those stories back when he was a kid. So I'm like, let's share those stories with people. And
Mhm.
that's how the podcast started. And also I think the last thing, and sometimes I forget about this as the motivator, but it is important, is I really, as a parent, I really take that as, that's the greatest achievement, the greatest opportunity in my life is to parent my son. Um, I wanted him to be able to look back someday and say, wow, my pop did something. Like he had this idea and he ran with it. And now look at all that he's done, the good that he's put out in the world. And I
Mhm.
wanted him to have that archive. I don't have a lot of stuff on my parents. I'm fortunate they're still around, but, like, I don't have a lot of those stories as a kid. I don't have, like, videos. We don't have that stuff, right? I'm 42, like, back
Mhm.
back before the internet was existed, I don't have a lot of those things. So I think that was
Mhm.
part as well. That was kinda like the 3rd rung on it is to have that archive for my son and to have
Mhm.
that story like, "Hey, dad did something." So
Yeah, that's awesome.
pause there for a
I
second,
think
see if you have any questions before I jump to the other spot you wanted.
yeah, I think that's and that was kind of my inclination. There's always someone can relate to that in some area of life. The conversations, the internal dialogue of not wanting to get started and trying to like almost hype yourself up internally to do it. Whereas I think we trade so much of the anxiety. Have you ever heard of the like of a philosophy? It's called like anxiety cost. It's like how much time beforehand of doing something that you would just save if you had just done it in the first place.
Mm,
Um, so we spend so much time worrying about like what the perfect method is of expressing something, or I mean, you see it manifest. We all have some area of our life where this manifests. It's like you have to buy the perfect running shoes before even just hiding out on the pavement and running, or you have to have like the perfect laptop before you start the business, or you
right,
have to take the
right,
perfect course before you learn how to do it. There's
right.
some like your dialogue of like the podcast, there's always something in someone's life that you can connect with them on, and I think that's a big hook. Um, it's honestly like it's hard to find things that we can all trace back to like a common emotion like that, and it's very visceral for some people who honestly probably feel that a lot more strongly than others. Um,
Yeah.
and especially in a world now where it's so hard to jump into action sometimes, and there's a lot more distractions that I think that keep people in that state kind of longer than they want to be.
Well, and you're spot on. I think the one other point is the people that we see online that are, the influencers of the world, right? Um, we see them so, at least I do, you see them so
Hmm.
far ahead. The Gary Vaynerchuks, the Alex Hormozis, the Rock, like, I don't care who you name in what industry, right? um, they're all like so far ahead. You're like, wow, they've like been building this for a lot of years and they have all this quote unquote success and all this stuff. And I think if we're really honest with ourselves, that bothers us. And the fact we're like, God, yeah, I want to get to this better state. Man,
Hmm.
that's a lot there. But then we realize is like, wait a minute, they all started. They
Hmm.
all had a day one. They
Hmm.
all struggled through maybe their first businesses that weren't successful. Like, and I think when we take that approach, it's like, okay, Well, let me do that. Then, oh, by the way, if I'm struggling with my business, that's okay because other people before me have struggled and they've come out on the other end. And I think
Hmm.
when we start having that mentality, I'm an eternal optimist. So I like to take the approach of like, okay, like this is just where I am. Like I'm
Hmm.
on level one. I can't play level 10 right now. I'm on level one. Let's focus
Hmm.
on level one. And then when we move to level two, we move to level two. Like if
Hmm.
someone's on level 10, let me applaud them. How can I support them? What could I learn from their story that I can take where I'm at today? But
Hmm.
the problem, if you and you might have experienced this with your business growing it, but if you talk to other kind of creators, other folks that are trying to build their business, a lot of times they're saying to themselves like, "Shit, why am I doing X when I should be
Hmm.
doing Y?" Because they're trying to play on a greater level. Then they're not. Their business isn't there yet. It's not mature yet. You can't
Hmm.
jump steps.
Yeah, dude,
That's the really right.
all you see is the gap nowadays, and I think that, and I'm like, there's so much emotional head trash that goes into it, especially for me. That's why I'm literally like patient zero for everything, like everything I talk about on here is like we wear that insecurity so much more strongly. Whereas if you were to hear like the Rock story, for example, like he talks about how he has like $7 in his pocket and he's living in a trailer home, like all these things. And the smallest inconvenience or smallest insecurity that happens in our own lives, like we blow it up to be so much worse than something like that. But when we hear it with the context of someone else and knowing where they already gotten to, it's fascinating. It's part of the story. It makes the end result so much better. Whereas when we don't know what's going to happen, we kind of languish in the negatives because
Yeah.
we haven't accomplished what it is yet. And man, it's so prominent.
Well, and you actually said a word earlier, which is kind of apropos to the whole just get started mission, and that's action. You mentioned
Hmm.
James Clear, right?
Hmm.
Action creates mood. It's one of the things I heard from him that I absolutely love. Action creates mood. It's
Hmm.
not the other way around. Where I was like, I got to be motivated before I go to the gym. Well, no, go to the gym, and that action will get you motivated. And that's really something that I took. Whether I heard a similar analogy before, James Clear came around, or I read Atomic Habits, I can't remember, but that has always been kind of top of mind for me. It's like, go do something. Like, go create the action, but do the smallest little step first and see
Hmm.
if you even like it, to give a taste to it. And then, okay, am I going to keep doing with it or not? And that's the mentality I always had. So going back to the podcast, right? The reason I've gotten to hundreds of episodes and I've been doing this almost 8 years is because I don't think about it as hundreds of episodes. I think about it as the next one. That's all that
Hmm.
matters to me, is the next one. Right. So I had episode
Hmm.
one. Great. I'm doing episode two. Episode two. I'm doing episode three. I'm not thinking about episode 100. Sure. Did I think about it? Of course I thought about it. Right. I'm a human being. I'm like, oh man, it'd be cool to get to 100, but I'm only focused on, I got to have those interviews to do the next one. I got
Yeah.
to edit this podcast to do the next one. And I really chunked it out so small where the hundreds of episodes just got in the way,
Hmm.
just purely by consistency and time
Hmm.
lapse. That's it. It's the
Yeah.
same
So.
way anyone else gets in shape at the gym. It's purely by, they just kept showing up at the gym,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. Well, so let's perform a little live autopsy here. So,
Okay.
when you published episode 1, what was your mindset and motives then? And what have they transitioned to now? Say you look on your calendar in the morning, you have a podcast on the agenda. What's the mindset of your general approach to everything beforehand? Has your general level of excitement, yeah, I know we're kind of at a inflection point of the show.
Mhm.
So tell me about like what your mindset has been in the beginning. What were the metrics that you were thinking of that were top of mind? And what kind of headspace did you bring to an episode when you first started versus like to this point where it's taken like a whole new meaning in your life?
Yeah. I think at the beginning, so one, nervousness and fear was
Hmm.
probably you know,
Yeah.
I was nervous
I was
to,
waiting on that one.
yeah, that was
Hmm.
the big one, just nervousness and fear and like, oh my God, people are going to hate me, or are they, is this person going
Hmm.
to hang up halfway through the call, or, um,
Yeah.
there's a so just for right, we're recording this in 2025 just because this is, I think, important context.
Mhm.
The anyone that's listening in that does a podcast or maybe has a been guest on one, and maybe they haven't done this for a while, the tools back in 2017, it's drastically different. It's literally like I can't. It's like going in back and using a Walkman. Most people don't even know what that is. Like we had like I remember I did podcasts on Skype. I did it on this. There was this product called Ringer,
Mhm.
Ringr or something like that. I like there's when I was editing it, like it was just so like cobbled together. Like so the thing is, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just like, oh, okay, I think I have to upload it to Apple, and I figured out how how to do that.
Mhm.
And then I just like, okay, I'm gonna record this. Skype was decent at the time, but it was still kind of cobbled together. And then you still had a good internet connection because you got to remember 2017, we think internet, oh my God, we're doing this on 4K on Riverside and all this stuff. Like internet back then was challenging even
Mhm.
to get a good Wi-Fi connection. Anyways, all
Yeah.
that being said, so there was a lot of fear and nervousness. There was a lot of trepidation on like, is the equipment going to work? Am I even doing this the right way? And there was even a lot of, and we could put this in the fear category, but like
Mhm.
reaching out to people and asking them to be on the show. Like you, I'll talk about today in a minute, but like that's one of the big learning lessons that I had about the ask, not being afraid. Who cares if someone
Mhm.
says no? And that's something I learned over the years. That was the big thing. I think one other thing that I really, I would never change, but was like a big part was like I wrote questions. I don't write
Mm.
questions today.
Mhm.
I used to write like 10 to 20 questions like for each guest. And I
Mhm.
stopped doing that probably around episode 100 because I felt
Mhm.
like it was pigeonholing me or it made the
Mhm.
conversation very kind of transactional, and I
Yeah.
wanted the conversation to be more fluid.
Mm.
Really though, and I don't know if you how many episodes have you done so far?
We're getting ready to publish 100 and it's right around 100. So
Okay.
next week will be 100 even. I haven't planned out what that one's gonna look like, but it's been every week for almost 2 years.
Okay. So you're almost at 100, right? And when you think about at 100, you're way more comfortable today than you were 2 years ago. And
Mhm.
I think when you're able to like, even the dialogue you've had, right? I can and tell me if I'm wrong, I can almost guarantee the first 5 episodes, it was all the guest and you barely chimed in.
Mhm.
Would that be accurate
Yeah.
statement? Right?
Yeah, don't go and check, but yes, that is accurate.
No, go back and listen to episode 1.
Yeah,
Everyone
don't
should.
do that. I know. No,
Um
those were the reps, man. Those were the
No,
ugly
no,
reps
those
at
are
the
the
gym.
reps. But what I'm
Mhm.
getting at is like you have to go through those to build the confidence because
Mhm.
again, going back to 2017, I still was not confident like in what I was doing. I felt like an imposter a lot of the time. Like, is people gonna? Oh, Brian's a podcaster. Like, I got some of that by the way from people
Mhm.
that I knew. Like, oh wait, that like literally it was like you're doing a what? A podcast? Like that was like the
Mhm.
way they said it. And you
Mhm.
feel like, "Oh my god, I'm in this, uncharted waters." So, there was a lot of like, "Am I even fit to do this?" And then
Mhm.
eventually you start like, "No, I've done this long enough. I've gotten started. I have a lot of
Yeah.
stories to share. Let me start sharing my insight." And it wasn't just the podcast, I'd reading a ton of books and talking to people outside of that and, listening to podcasts. And so you start building up this acumen as well, where you start
Mhm.
building the confidence. So that was kind of
Mhm.
the 2017 version. The 2025 version, I think a lot of it, I do a lot more research than I've ever done
Mhm.
on guests. Research though, not to like show off like, oh, it's fun though sometimes to bring up like, oh, this is an interesting story. I'm not sure if they would. Like I remember I had Jason Pfeiffer, who's the editor in chief at
Mhm.
Entrepreneur Magazine. I had him on the show, and I remember bringing up something about like something he like. I can't remember the name of the thing, but he wrote in college. It was like the college newspaper or
Mhm.
whatever. magazine. And it was just kind of like, it was funny just to like see his reaction to that because he hadn't thought about that in a lot of years.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of fun is like, researching. And plus it gives me a little background on the people. It's not just, oh, they have this business. It's like, no, tell me who they are as a person. So that's probably the biggest thing I do different prior to an episode is I probably do 30 to 45 minutes of a really good research, LinkedIn post, kind of going to the corners of the internet, not just like, oh, let
Mhm.
me look on their website and read in a bio kind of thing. Um,
Mhm.
but other than that, I go in. I'm still nervous at times, by the way. I still get
Mhm.
nervous. Uh, But as I know you're a golfer, the great Jack Nicklaus used to say there's a difference between being nervous and prepared and nervous and scared.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
now I feel it's nervousness, like, because I'm excited, but I'm prepared versus I think in 2017 it was nervous and scared. That would be probably the
Yeah.
biggest difference.
Yeah. Dude, isn't it dude, there's a lot of overlap for me personally, so I won't tell a ton of stories on the early days because we always look back on those with like overly fond memories. There's so many things that I could unpack about that. Like I said, it's such a good connection piece to have that context for the show and also being patient zero of it yourself. Um, but like when you look back at well, before we even connected, I was looking back at like just the archive, like this body of work, like you mentioned. And I can almost picture, I never thought about like what, my kids in the future, if they could go back and see like what dad actually do. Cause I think, in the future we have that's the good part of living in the age that we do is that we have a much more traceable and more visible digital footprint
Mhm.
for people that come after us. Um, but dude, like some of the people that you've had on your show, like is really impressive. And I I struggle a lot with imposter syndrome in the beginning. Now it's kind of a different expression of that. It kind of started as like imposter syndrome because there was me identifying the gap between not just the people I was interviewing, but like the other people that I was trying to compete in business with. And I don't view it as competition, but you go to chambers of commerce events or you go to conferences and there's people that have been doing a lot better than you. And that's what we talked about is always being exposed to that gap and not being
Mhm.
intimidated by it. But dude, like when you have these conversations, people like Nerial and Seth Godin, like, do you ever feel imposter syndrome knowing that those people are a lot more visible than you, or are you like generally excited to be able to have someone like that and just share conversational air with them? Because the first guest I had on my show was a guy named Jeremy Slagle,
Mhm.
and not famous, not but he was someone that I had been listening to all of his content for such a long time, and he was a marketer and designer from an area near where I grew up. So to me, he was absolute like rock star status. So like I psyched myself up. It was a horrible interview because I was just I knew him way better than honestly like some of the stories like I was doing marathon training at the time, so I had listened to all of his interviews. Like he's just been echoing in my head for hours and hours, which I know I freaked him out. But but yeah, like kind of another tangent, but like going back to you, are you ever intimidated or feel any sense of imposter syndrome knowing that some of the people that you've had on your show are just actual rock stars and not just like people that you look up to in your own mind?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I absolutely. But I think the definition though has changed of
Hmm.
imposter. And actually, Seth is the one that made me change my opinion on this. So
Hmm.
I used to think it was imposter syndrome, like, oh my God, I'm an imposter. I shouldn't be here. And this is, like I'm not good enough and whatever. And Seth really got me changing my viewpoint on it of that. The fact that you think you're an imposter, it means you're doing the right thing because we're all imposters. Every single
Hmm.
one of us is imposters when we're trying to push out of our comfort zone and get to a new spot. Like you're an imposter
Hmm.
of doing a podcast until you did it. And now you've done a
Hmm.
podcast. Now you can say, well, you're an imposter for whatever. We can make up whatever. Oh, having certain guests or having what I have no idea what we'd say, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
once I start getting into that realm, like this goes back to, I've written 3 children's books, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was an imposter before writing those books. Now I can call myself a children's book author and be very proud and confident of that. But gosh, those 3 books, oh my God, what a journey to freaking publish those, because like I just beat myself up about not, I'm not good enough or whatever. Well, that's what Seth is talking about, is kind of you're leaning into it. This is
Mm-hmm.
the route you should be going. It's going to be difficult. You're probably not qualified, but doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. And that's really what being an imposter is about. Fine,
Mm-hmm.
you're an imposter until you're not, but you're never going to not be an imposter until you do the thing. That's where it kind of like it's a double-edged sword. So you have to
Right.
do the thing. You have to lean into it. And sure, you don't know anything, but no one does. Going back to what I said earlier, no one does. We all start at 0. So your
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy
Yeah.
guy, right? He wasn't a rock star at day 1. He became the rock star because he put the effort and work and leaned on that imposter kind of quote unquote syndrome. But he said, I'm going to do it anyway. So that's how
Mm-hmm.
I look at it. So yeah, I absolutely sometimes have folks on where I'm like, oh man, these guys, this is cool, whatever, and get nervous, but it's more excitement because I feel like, wait a minute, I should be in that room with them.
Mm-hmm.
I've put in the reps.
Nice.
I've put the time in. I
Mm-hmm.
do a really professional show. I do my research. And
Mm-hmm.
so again, before where it was like, oh my God, like, they're so grateful that they're even here. Like I am grateful, but like, I'm like, oh my God, they're here. Like, oh, what are they going to say? And then I
Mm-hmm.
walk off when they're like, Brian, really good show. Like, great question. Like after the fact, I stop recording. They're like, Brian, like I've gotten a million times of like, Brian, dude, great questions. Like normal, dude, I do a lot of
Mm-hmm.
interviews that are just, ugh. Like, so thank you for keeping this engaging and entertaining. Like, that's really good to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
dude, that's like the
you know,
highest compliment you can get, man, because
absolutely.
it's so hard to create that like host environment, you know? And I mean, a lot of it I think goes into the pre-work and having the reps. Um, but I'm also a firm believer too that like if you feel with some kind of a level of imposter syndrome behind something, there's nothing bad about that, but there's probably some element of it that might be true. And I think like what you said is leaning into it, like, okay, maybe I'm learning a little bit as I go here. Which we all are doing. Like even people that
Mhm.
are top of their craft are still learning something new every time they do things.
Yeah, and
And it's just
it's an I
fascinating to think.
can't. Yeah, it's I can't
Yeah.
do it yet. It's not a I can't do it. It's I can't do it yet. I haven't done it yet, but doesn't mean I can't do it. It's not that I'm
Hmm.
not capable. I haven't done it yet. And that's where it's kind of
Hmm.
this mindset of like, people that are very negative, like, I can't do that. I'm not going to be able to do that.
Hmm.
Yeah, you can take that approach, or I haven't done it yet.
Hmm.
I'm putting in the
Yeah.
effort though to try to go in that direction and do it. Well, if I go in that direction and I make the effort, well, now I can do it. I don't know how
Hmm.
long it's going to take me to get to some quote unquote success. We have to define that, but I have to go down that path, right?
Hmm.
And it goes back to the
Yeah.
anxiety thing, right? One of my favorite quotes is by Seneca, where he says, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality."
Yeah.
And we suffer by like, oh man, I really want to do this podcast. I can't do it, blah, blah, blah. Instead of like, I'm going to do it.
Hmm.
And now like, that's my reality. I've done it.
Yeah.
And now let's
Immediately free.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think
Hmm.
yeah, you're right. I mean, there's, and by the way, like you're right. The highest form of like the fact that Seth came on for a second time, that was like a massive compliment for me. Right. Is
Hmm.
that, a year or two later after he came on the first time, he had a new book coming out. I said, Seth, we'd love to have you on. Brian, let's go. Like
Hmm.
that was excitement because I'm like, okay, now someone, because I read Seth's blog every single day. Like he's
Yeah.
someone I look up to.
Hmm.
But the thing, this goes back to, and you probably the same if Jeremy was on yours, you said you looked up to him, is like, that's how I get most of my guests. I have
Hmm.
people that reach out. I have so many people that reach out now, which is, it's almost overwhelming. And I gotta figure out how to put a stop to that. But just like random, you probably get that too. Just like random,
Hmm.
like, people that are trying
Yeah.
to promote folks. So I have that. I'll have referrals. I'll be like, oh, Brian, you should have so and so on. They're really cool. Or they have this. Okay.
Hmm.
And I listen to a lot of those because some of my best guests come from other guests. But then I
Mhm.
have most of the people are just someone that I see online or I've read their
Mhm.
book or I followed them and I'm like, let's reach out and let's see if they're like the guy, a perfect example, like some of my, again, I don't like to pick favorites, but like having both of the founders of Basecamp. I don't know if you know
Mhm.
Basecamp as a company. Um,
Yeah, you've had Freed on?
and DHH, both of them. Yeah. Um,
My god, dude.
yeah,
I
I
didn't
had,
even know that.
yeah, I
Oh
had them on
god.
last summer but you know why? I've been following them since 2011. I used Basecamp
Yeah.
in 2011, and I've read their books and, like so both of them actually, it was back-to-back episodes. I had both of them on, but that was massive for me because 'cause I'm like, "These guys." I love having people that I've used their products, I've read their books, they're people that I believe in, and I think that they're doing good in the world. That's the type of people like Chris Hutchins I had on that, All the Hacks podcast. Like,
Yeah.
people like that, like those are big for me. It's like, wow, this is cool to have them on because I look up to them.
Uh-huh.
And I'm so grateful that they come on the show. But it's just a matter of like, I now have the confidence that I can reach out to anyone. And if they say no, most people are going to say no. Most
Right, and
people are
I
gonna
think,
say no.
like, that's like the mindset behind that is like so empowering, but I don't think you truly could reach out to anyone and have it land because I think the reason that it works with those people is because you so genuinely look up to them and you express that in the ask. Um,
Yeah. Oh, you're
I
right.
think,
You're right.
and plus, like the thing that like I think you're a pretty charming dude too, which like if anyone has a conversation with you, they'll see.
Thanks, dude.
But talk to me about what that ask looks like. Do you um is it like a genuine like, dude, like really look up to you, would love to share your voice on the platform that I have? Or does it just look like something where you start a conversation? Um and I get the sense too that it's not even an incentive to you to try and get them to say yes to something. So is your approach to just make a connection and lift them up for their work? And then if the conversation goes that way, or are you very structured in saying, man, like I look up to you and would love to have you on the show, or are you that direct with it?
Yes, the latter. I'm that direct because I
Mhm.
also come from like a sales background and I've been very successful in that, but I've been successful because I've done it my
Mhm.
own way. I take a very like empathetic human approach to sales, not the kind
Mhm.
of crap you'll read in a lot of books and people trying to, the used car salesman type. Um, so I could play like like a Jason Fried, like, oh hey Jason, man, love read the book or love this, great job, keep doing the great. And then, like, follow up in a month and ask, like, that's a little disingenuous. Now,
Yeah.
there's people that, by the way, I've been following for a number of years where like, I'll get their newsletter and I'll reply, and I do that often. I don't know if people don't do this, you should. Like, most people like, my newsletter that I've been growing recently, but, like, I get some people every
Mhm.
once in a while that'll reply to it. Wow, that feels really good.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe there's some feedback or whatever. I think you might have replied to one if I remember. I'm trying to remember, but,
Mhm.
like,
That's good.
that feels good. And so I reply to people's. Now,
Mhm.
does that recognize my name? Sure, maybe down the road, but I just go for the ask because, like, for the Basecamp guys, perfect examples. Like, I've read your books, like I've used Basecamp, and that's kind of the approach. Is like, hey, I've used Basecamp, whatever, back 15, 14 years ago. Here's what I'm trying to do. Now, I do drop for me because I have a number of episodes. I know those
Mhm.
time folk everyone's time is valuable, by the way. But
Mhm.
when they're kind of maneuvering around doing a million things, trying to run a successful business, taking an hour out to do a podcast can be challenging, right? So I
Mhm.
let them know I've been doing this for X number of years and I have this many episodes. Sometimes I'll even share, like, I've had similar guests like Seth Godin or, whatever, Derek Sivers or, Kevin
Mhm.
Kelly, like, okay, I'll like name some folks there.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, like, okay, you've been doing this for 7 years. You've done this many episodes. You've had people that, not that like we're putting people on a pedestal, but like, sort of at a level
Mhm.
like success. Okay.
Mhm.
This guy's done because why would one, no one's going to be horrible, you would think, if they've been doing it for 7 years. Right?
Mhm.
They've put in the reps, they figured it out a little bit, they've gone through some of that.
Mhm.
At the same time, if they've had numerous guests on of stature, let's use that, okay, then I'm gonna, okay, I'm gonna get value out of this.
Mm-hmm.
So whether people say no,
Yeah.
but that's the thing. It's a very direct. It's like, hey, I love your work, or I've used your product or whatever. Here's who I am. Would you consider coming on?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much that simple.
Yeah.
And I try to keep it short and to the point. And
Mm-hmm.
if they say yes, if they say yes. If they don't, they don't. And sometimes I fouled up, you know, but I don't lose sleep over it because at the end of the day, like I just love talking to people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and what's funny is like the people that I have on today, I may not have known who they were a year ago, but I
Mm-hmm.
came across like that's actually a lot of my guests over the last year. I've I found them, let's say on LinkedIn or something like that. I'm like, oh wow, I like their writing. It's kind of, oh, this is really interesting. Oh, let me
Mm-hmm.
just reach out to them. I was like, oh yeah, cool, Brian. I'd love to come on. All right, let's do it.
Yeah. Dude, it's such a hack, dude, to have a podcast. And I said I think a big part of what I realized there is that there's brand association, right? You've created this thing through consistency that
Mhm.
you never even thought of in the beginning. And when you say, like, it's such an appealing thing to come on now because people want to be associated with names like that. And they want to have a conversation with someone who's genuinely invested in it for the long term. And
Yeah.
like you said, if you do something for, unfortunately, the 7 years of doing something and being competent analogy doesn't translate as well to the golf course. Um,
Yeah.
but it's true though. It's like reps are what make everything. And yeah, that's the difference. And I think that the just get started analogy translates really well to making asks like that too.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get started with doing something like that, then you don't put the bait out there, it's never gonna happen for you, man.
Yeah. Well, what keeps me going really is, and obviously a lot of this is internal, like for my how the young Brian was or wasn't, and really
Mm-hmm.
what I want to bring to the table each and every day for myself to prove it to myself. But it's
Mm-hmm.
really the just get started mission. It's always been about navigating people to like, I have this compass framework, but like finding their compass, right? Like what's pointing them to that purpose in life, that meaning in life to get started, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
always been about it. So for me, I how can I talk about getting started and all that circles just get started as a mission if
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing things, if I'm not starting, if I'm not doing the uncomfortable asks, right? That's all
Mm-hmm.
part of it, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not sharing my journey, if I'm not sharing the struggle, right? Because it sometimes we only see like the highlight reel on social media. Now I do feel
Yeah.
people are sharing more of the vulnerability now than they ever have, which is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I've been sharing that for a lot of years. You can go back to 2019, 2020. Like my solo episodes, I was sharing a lot of the struggle, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's something I really pride myself on is to say, listen, Brian, just a dude, just a guy. Like it's really the whole, like, I'm not nothing special. Like, but I do think I'm a good person. I do think I'm a great father. Like I put a lot of good out in the world. That's my motto is
Mm-hmm.
like positivity and optimism in the world. And I know there's a lot of bad things in the world, but okay, let me put out some positivity to hopefully, kind of help some people that need it.
Mm-hmm.
And if people like me for that, they like me. And there's people that don't like me, that's cool. Like I ain't gonna
Mm-hmm.
like, no one's gonna like everything. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I show up every day. Like that's really it for me. It's like, am I putting that step forward every day? And if I am, awesome. And
Mm-hmm.
if I want to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm tired of not doing. I've For so many years I was so stuck in my head. That's why now
Uh-huh.
it's like, no, I'm going to keep doing this. Well, great. I'm going to do the podcast, or I want to retool it. I don't care what anyone else says. It's my podcast. I'm going to retool it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to take the bull by the horns and just do it.
Yeah. There's something to be said about momentum too. Um, and one, it's kind of a sidebar, but one thing that you said there was just how big, like, if it's a jargony term, but KPI, if people want to have another conversation with you, if you can judge like the success of your life by like how many people want to have another conversation with you, I think that's a really good one to live by. Now that I think about it, and I hear you say that, because that's just a signal that you made someone else feel good, and it wasn't you didn't distract them from what they had going on, but you reinforced the parts of them that they liked, and you inspired them. Um, when I think about the people that I get energized talking to, like I actually look forward to,
Mhm.
there was this whole lesson. One of my mentors talked to me about this, but because at the end of the day, like when you're trying to build a business, you want to have messages with your clients, or you want to have messages with your clients to where when you get a message from them, it's an oh yeah message and not an oh shit message.
Okay.
Um, and if you can have as many like oh yeah, contacts in your Rolodex, then I think you're doing something right, man. There's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask you too, when how much overlap is there in terms of the just get started mindset when you talk? Because a lot of your content that I've been consuming lately is about sales.
Mhm.
So how much does that come up in your conversations, like when you're working with clients to either just get started to put in reps? How much overlap is there in those two philosophies, and how do you see it manifest itself?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of overlap because I think
Mm-hmm.
especially founders, I think you can agree to this probably, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is what gets in our way is our confidence. Like, are we good enough to be on that sales call? Is our product good enough? Like, how are we doing against the quote unquote competition? Should I be pricing that high? Oh, that seems high. Like there's all this. That's all mindset. Like that's all in between the ears, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's on the golf course. It's like, do I trust myself to hit that cut 7 iron over the water, right? It's like that's the
Yeah. Mm.
like and you're a gamer. Come on, you got some skill. Um, but like that's the thing. It's like, am I willing? And so what I teach with the sales side is skills and systems. That's my two biggest things. Skills and systems is the skills to be able to go into a conversation and manage your sales process, and the systems to basically help support that. And one of those
Mhm.
skills, or kind of a mesh of skills, is all around, kind of the personal side, the whole mental side of it. That's a skill, really, is to learn that. How do we talk to
Mhm.
ourselves, right? How do we pump ourselves up? How do we not like? How do we? This is something just top of mind, but maybe it'll be relevant to the audience. Like even like someone sends you an email back and they say something, like, "Oh, I'm not sure if I'm ready, or I'm not interested," or whatever. Like, part of that is a mindset of how you show up. A lot of people will be like, "Well, I can give you a 20% discount and we can start this week." Yeah, but
Mhm.
that's not being empathetic. That's not being confident in your ability and what you provide. Like, there's a lot of things there around like that whole just get started, the mindset, the philosophy around like um how you are, and I'm trying to think of the best word to say it. Like how you are, I guess the soft skills, if you were, versus just like,
Mhm.
can I do this or not? Um,
Yeah.
there's a bad way to explain it, but like that's was one example random that came up recently with a someone that's trying to like get more business, and then it's like, well, you can't just throw a discount out there. Like, why are they even saying that? We need to go behind the curtain and understand
Mhm.
where they're coming from. That has a lot to do with how we are as we show up as humans, and that's a lot to do with the kind of mental fitness, if you will, of how we show up with our philosophy in terms of, can I do this or can I not do this?
Yeah. And I think that's so good. I think like for founders in particular, they get started, and especially successful ones, like a lot of them are technical people. They get a lot of affirmation out of having some kind of success in business.
Mhm.
And then when you realize that when there's so many other things that you have to do as a startup founder and just as a business owner, inevitably you're bound to be bad at something. And one of the biggest head trashes I got into was you are just a very technical person. You're so good at doing what you do. I don't know if you've ever read The E Myth by Michael Gerber, but it's like,
No.
why do you start a business in the first place? It's a storybook of this lady named Sarah, and she starts a bakery because she likes to build pies, and all her friends are telling her like, "Oh, you need to do this." She was a technician, and she's not an entrepreneur. But a lot of founders that start as technicians, i.e., you're really good at your craft, and that's why you started and you made a business out of it. When you hit these other roadblocks and to wear all these other hats of doing different things, all of a sudden you're the marketer, all of a sudden you're the salesman, all of a sudden you're, HR, everything, taxes, finance. You hit parts of that you're bad at. and you have to do them because you have to make this thing work.
Mhm.
And when you fail at some of it, when you sort of wear that hat of going outside of your comfort zone, or when you get on a sales call and you have to pitch your product or your business for the first time, you go to that first Chamber of Commerce event and they say your name wrong, and all of a sudden you're the 20-year-old and you haven't been doing this, and then everyone thinks your name is Mindful Mulligan Graphics, and you just are on the spotlight there. You hit those things that you're bad at, and you allow that to shape your self-confidence, and it starts to bleed out into other areas. You start to question, like, oh, should I really be doing this? Am I really even that good at what I do? Because you start to get into a room to where you are the expert in that very niche thing, but you're not the expert in the commonality that you guys all have as business owners and other founders. So you haven't yet fallen into that ideology of taking a business approach to what you were good at. And I think a lot of people get stuck in that messy middle. A lot of people do, because you start to just expose yourself to so many things that you're just not good at. And if you don't go into it with a, okay, exploratory mindset, this is how I apply the business side to my technical side, you can really let it shatter your confidence.
Yeah.
And it's not just a personal chapter for me, but it's something that I see a lot in a lot of other founders too.
Well, and on top of that, I find that there's two poor approaches I've seen as well. One is, all right, I'm going to outsource that. I'm going to find other people to do
Mhm,
that. That's
mhm,
fine for your taxes, but when it's selling,
mhm,
like when, especially when you're the product. Now, I even say this for, founders that I know and I've helped that are selling like a SaaS product and stuff, and maybe they're kind of behind it. You still know the product, you know everything better than anyone else because literally it's you. Maybe you have a co-founder, maybe you have a couple team members, but like you need to be out there front and center selling. You can't just hire someone that's, 25 years old, 2 years in sales or something like that, and expect
mhm,
them to actually sell your product better than you. You're literally the founder building it right now. So
mhm,
so I think the outsourcing piece of it, but then it's also, unfortunately, what I see is people that try to take shortcuts. Now, I'm taking it from a sales
mhm,
approach, but this could be from marketing. This could be for anything else. You probably talk with people, right? I'm just going to go to
mhm,
Wix and build a website or something like that. I don't need it.
mhm,
I'm sure you had that conversation. Like, okay, but like, is that really the smartest decision for your business? It's the same thing with sales. It's like, okay, I'm great. Go read the Challenger sale or, whatever. Go take this course. Okay. But are you investing like this actually is going to create revenue for you long term? Are you
mhm.
going to invest it and not? And
Yeah.
that's really the approach I've taken to sales coaching is, I only want people that are serious.
Mhm,
I don't want people that are like, yeah, I may do this. Like if it's between me and buying a course, we're not the right fit.
mhm,
I want someone that, this is take the golf analogy, which we could have talked about for 2 hours just golf, but like I want someone that's going to show up and like, I want to improve my game. I'm going to invest the time. I'm
mhm,
going to go to the range. I'm going to listen to what you're saying. I'm going to track my stats. Like I'm going to be right there doing what you're informing me to do. Now I want them to do it their way, but I'm going to be their guide, and they're going to trust
mhm,
me with that. And there's got to be that partnership there, or I don't think coaching works, right?
mhm.
If you're not in, it's like
Yeah.
people that go to therapy. Like I've actually had, this is sad, but true. I had a friend of mine when I was younger, like he's a lot of anger. He had a lot of anger and a lot of stuff from childhood. And he'd be like, yeah, I'm going to my therapist or whatever. Or I was like, great. Okay. And he'd come back and be like, how was the session? Whatever. And he'd say some stuff. I'd be like, wait a minute. That's not true though. Like, well, yeah, I kind of lie to them. Wait, I'm like, you lie to your therapist? Like, yeah, I lied to the therapist. I'm like, how is that even helping you?
Mhm.
Are you just there because someone told you to go there? And like, that was the whole thing. It was like, he was kind of like, well, you have to go to this thing. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay. But that's the thing. I have this plenty of times. People want to show up, but they don't want to do the work. You got to
Mhm.
do the work. So anyways, I see
Yeah.
the founders that in those two avenues of like, they either don't think they need to do it or they want a shortcut or they want to outsource. They're like, well, and that's a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm just going to hire a sales rep.
Mhm.
It's literally two people in this company. You can't sell. No, they can
Yeah.
sell, they just don't want to, they're scared. They haven't, again, going back to the mindset, they haven't approached that side of things yet to actually get themselves the confidence to sell, because everyone can sell. And actually,
Right.
I would argue
You s-
that it's better for you to sell if it's your business, until you get to some scale where that's not necessary anymore or beneficial for you based on the skill set. But everyone should sell at the beginning because you have to know
yeah.
the underpinnings of your business.
Exactly. It's especially important in the beginning because you're the only one that can do it, and you're the only one that knows how to elaborate the technical aspects of what the product, the service, the business is.
Mhm.
You can't outsource that in the beginning. Over time, you can build brand equity and you can train account managers, marketing people. People like you have this body of work to work with, but in the beginning, man, as a skill, it's not like a skill that leaves you. It's something that takes reps to build in. So the earlier one of the questions I always used to ask to founders and agency owners that came on the show was, what is the one habit that compounds that you would invest in as early as possible, like as a young person early in your career? What is one thing that you would consciously train? A lot of the answers that I get are either networking and interpersonal relationships. Sales is often one of them, or just like being a good conversationalist. Like that's stuff that people need to learn early because if you can elaborate your ideas and you can build empathy with people, those things, like the soft skills we talked about, those are the things that don't go away no matter what your role in the company, no matter what business you're starting. All these pivots in lives,
Yeah.
those are pillars, man. Like those aren't going away anytime soon.
Yeah, and you keep building
But
on them. You're absolutely right.
yeah. But dude, like I super value your time, man. Like this has been awesome. Um I've been following you for a while, dude. And like I said, you you meet a lot of people on LinkedIn, and there's sometimes some inconsistency in terms of, I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but you see it's not a one-to-one match in terms of what you get online versus what's in reality. And I can say to anyone watching, it's very much a one-to-one connection with you. I started like we resonate and we connect a lot on the just kind of just get started mindset. And I know we both have shows to where, I mean, I'll catch up to you eventually. You might be in the grave before I catch up to the triple
Oh,
digit number that you're
not
at.
a competition.
But
Not a
I know.
all the you hey, you
We'll
can
get
pump
there
out
one
3
day.
episodes a week.
I I know. That'll be me like on when we're both old and gray, but finally caught up to you. But no, man, I just want to say that I do look up to you a lot. I see nothing but up and to the right for you in the future. You very genuine guy, and it's been a joy to not just follow you, but to get to know you in person. So I want to give the audience a chance to know how to get in touch with you. Where can they find you online so they can either continue the conversation or see everything else you got going on?
Yeah, appreciate that, dude. I'll kind of kudos back to you. And I think you've done a phenomenal job, getting to 100 episodes. And I think you share a lot of great stuff, especially on LinkedIn where we kind of connected. So you got to applaud yourself as well for putting yourself out there because it's tough at your age to do that, right? And just kind of you're in the thick of this early shit. Like it's it's you're figuring it out and like you're sharing that vulnerability and you're letting people in. And I think people and you have a very genuine kind of tone to you. So yeah, likewise, kind of right back at you. So I've enjoyed it and hopefully we'll enjoy getting conversations with you in the future. Where can people get a hold of me? Well, website, brianondrako.com, BrianOndrako.com. Easiest thing. Couple shout outs, I guess I'll say. So LinkedIn, yes. I'm actually starting to write on Substack more. I'm really putting some
Mm.
more time in there. But yeah, go on LinkedIn and just search my name. I do have my Sales Skills for Founders is my newsletter I've been writing all year. I'm going to continue to write this year and into next year. But yeah, just one skill every week. I talk about something super simple to kind of take with you and really take some action on your sales. That's the big thing. I always leave with like an action item, like something to take with you so that you can implement it right away. This stuff shouldn't be
Mhm.
complicated. It's not complicated. It's just like over the course of a period of time, you do it over and over again. You start building this really good acumen for your sales process and how that relates to you as a human being. Because I think sales is human, and I think everyone sells differently. There's certainly foundational approaches that you can take, but every single person sells differently, and you got to tap into what makes you you and be authentic on those calls versus trying to like act like someone else. I don't want someone trying to sell like me. You have to
Mhm.
sell like you. So, sales skills for founders, for anyone out there that wants to subscribe to that, you can go to my website and find that.